Well, hello everybody. Let me know if you can hear me. I think we have everything set up here correctly. I did not actually look to see the studio that the audio is correct. So tell me if you're able to hear me out there. And loud and clear. Okay, that's great. I am sitting at a little bit of a funny angle because I am the guest at a person who I'm just so enjoying being able to visit. And she will appear a little bit later. She's having dinner right now, so we're going to start off and do talk about some of the other things that we have to chat about tonight. How are you all doing, and what are you all doing? Have you found any good finds lately? Is there something exciting? I know Naomi is getting ready to do a show on for a Facebook group, and she's excited about that. And Miss Wildlife, it sounds like, is going to go to that estate sale we just saw the video for. So I know what a couple of you folks are doing, but Let me know your plans. Have to turn up the volume compared to the last stream. Yeah, that's typical with the lives. I'm also speaking a little bit more softly because my friends are having dinner in the next room, so I'm trying not to talk over them too much. Your car is empty. Well, it might not be after you go to that sale. I'll tell you, that was just crazy. And I can only imagine what they've unearthed. I helped them get the last 4 boxes out of the attic, and heaven knows what was in there. There were little pieces of furniture, all of that. Ooh, pricing all day for the booze. Good for you. Get it in now. I know people have been saying, oh, it's been slow, but that's because we're just about to get really busy. It's the calm before the storm, so a great time to be getting ready. And Corey is heading to Southeast Asia. How fun. What countries? And is that a pleasure trip, or are you going for other reasons? And thank you, Deb. I'm feeling more relaxed. Being here with my friends has just been really wonderful and helpful for all of that. Oh yes, Carol Sue, I know you're getting ready for Thanksgiving because you were looking for a brown transferware set to put out. Did you ever find that, or are you mixing and matching? I never got to find the answer. Oh, thank you. If I will let you know if there's something I had my eye on. I saw a few things I liked. I was good. I didn't take anything out before the sale, but I might need a thing or two. What is the date of the sale? The sale, I believe, is this Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So check on estatesales.net and look under Clyde Hill, Washington. Clyde, like Bonnie and Clyde. Um, I'm sure it was named after someone more respectable, but because it is a rather nice enclave. But yes, that's like that. Fossil forward. Pleasure trip. Japan, Thailand, Singapore, and Vietnam. That is a lot of traveling. That is fun, though. Oh, you brought in most of your Christmas and it sold already. We're going to talk about that, actually. That's one of the topics I'd like to talk about tonight is Christmas coming up and how do you prepare for that? Fossil Forward, Susan, pricing Christmas for the booths. Yes, 'tis the season. Fossil Forward says, getting ready to close on a house, then you can get your rocks out of storage. Yay, that's great. It's so nice to have new digs and be able to set things up and see your collections again. I I'm starting to do that in Kentucky a little bit. Things from Florida are making their way up there, so that's been fun. Do you want me to put the link in here? Why, yes, if you have the link, that'd be great. Thank you. You might have jumped it before. Um, yeah, if you can make it, it looks like a good sale. I think you'd have fun. And I'm sure there's other sales in the area, and Miss Wildlife can clue you in also to the estate sale company she's dealing with. I'm sure that they are closing some auctions and things too. So, um, found some holiday carolers. That's always a good thing. Let's see what else people have going on. I know Miss Udalali, are you having more Tai Chi events in the fall now? I think you've been teaching at the dojo, if I remember right. So anyway, it sounds like everybody is having fun, and I certainly am. And I will. I'm going to go ahead and get this here going. Yeah, a bunch of you mentioned Christmas things. Are any of you looking for particular things as a collector, or are there any specific things that I notice a few of you are talking about putting out for Christmas. Are there particular categories or things that you're looking for? Because what I am actually I am doing my regular stuff here with the videos, and I'm going to do my eBay drop of 20 uh, items, and I'm going to be doing ephemera and book club stuff for the next few months because I am traveling, and currently I am in Mexico, and I'm going to be here through Thanksgiving. And so I am not actually, I'm kind of sitting out Q4, which is not the correct thing to do as a reseller, but I packed my booths full, and that is what I'm doing. Um, let's see here. How would you know where to begin in a house like you just walked us through for an estate sale? Well, let's talk about that for a minute because that is, I have a different, it's funny, my friends who I work with who I did estate sales for years, they pretty much do it on their own now because I'm gone so much, but I was back in town and they said, could you please help us? We have so much stuff. Your students have Taekwondo. That's right. I'm sorry, Tai Chi. I know better than that. Taekwondo tournament this weekend. Oh, that's so fun. It's so fun to watch students and see how they progress. I really enjoy that. You're a teacher, and to see them learn and grasp and see how they do is just and be supportive of that is really fun. Um, so how do I know where to start? Well, my friends who I do the sales with, we all have a different way of doing it, and somehow it always has worked together. One of my friends, he wants to find the best stuff. He wants to bounce through the house. He wants to see a little of this and a little of that, and he wants to just go through and pick the plums and put them in the front room because that's where they're going to sell the best and we're going to make the house look the most impressive. That's a good method. For me, it's a little crazy because I need aisles, I need organization. So what I did, as you saw in that video, you notice the front room, all the glass is grouped. Everything is together. And then I go from there and I start doing all of the things that are needed to uh, put those categories together. And for me, I often group color because there's so much in a house. It's just an easy way to get your head around it. And as far as how I price, I start in one corner and I work my way around. And even that, I don't, unless we're so packed that we can't price it all, I don't skip through things because then how will you ever remember to go back and price the things that you forgot? So I try to be very methodical about that and just do it all. Um, and then certain things, if they're smaller than your fist and worth more than about $30 or $40, I put them up front where the cashier can see them, where they have more security. Um, we might even bring in locking cases, but that way you know where the best things are. And also if things might be dangerous, like if there's a big hunting knife or something like that, I will put that up in the front. And that's how I organize. And then you just make your way through. Sometimes you can take what has been in a house and kind of see how they had it, and you go from there. In this house, it was a little bit of a lot of stuff all over the place. So I just started putting colors together, types of items together, that whole Christmas table with all the Christmas. I just put all of those figures together in one place. We already had a Christmas room, but we needed a place for the figures that would be safe. So we put the figures there. I get a box and I put all the pictures in a box. I just have to make piles of things that are similar so that it's a well-organized sale, and then it makes it easier to get your head around. So, so that's the long and short answer to your question there. Dawn says she's had Fontanini figures and we'll get them on eBay with a week. You feel like you're a little behind, but it's okay because, you know, first of all, that stuff sells year round. And secondly, there are a lot of people who they shop all the way through the holidays and even after for Christmas. I mean, it can sell year round. So you'll be okay no matter what you do. What you do is enough. Miss Wildlife is saying, yep, because she used to help organize real world estate sales before her company that she works for went mostly online. Um, and hey, Emily Burton, nice to have you here. So speaking of, since Don brought up, oh, I feel like I'm behind, let's talk a little bit about the calendar, right? Okay, so to me, if you are a collector, then the great thing is that you're out there and you're hunting and you're probably looking now because you know that if you wait until Thanksgiving weekend, the general public comes into antique stores and they're going to start wiping things out. So as a collector, this might be the time to start looking for things. And I always say for the resellers, either be the collector or at least think like the collector does. So this time of year, gift giving and gift buying takes precedence over collecting for yourself, but you might also pick up a few things for yourself along the way. Thursday, Thanksgiving, that is a chance if you want to time your listing. Thursday afternoon, evening, you know, a lot of people, if they're not watching football, they're online and they're looking at stuff and they're starting to think and they're starting to shop. So that's a way to get a jump on the weekend if you're selling online. Critter Girl, hello there. Good to see you. Then Black Friday. I have a friend who holds an estate sale every year on Black Friday because she says people will buy all sorts of things that they wouldn't ordinarily buy because it's Black Friday. Then there's Small Business Saturday. I see a lot of antique malls participating in that. Corinne, it's nice to see you. Hello there. I'm talking a little bit about the calendar for Christmas, you know, like the holiday weekend after Thanksgiving and when things happen. So Thursday, the online jump on the weekend. Friday, you've got Black Friday. Saturday, a lot of small business Saturday stuff. And then there's Cyber Monday, and that is a big thing. And so I would say for you, Don, and that sort of thing, you've got time, but those are some key times to be out there and have your stuff available, whether it's real world in the malls or whether it's online. Those are big days. Then it's usually slower for the collectibles market through early December, and sometimes people even have sales during that time. So if you're a collector, again, be the collector or think like the collector. If you're the collector, the first week of December, the first 10 days, can be a great time to go find things because some people don't get it out, or some things are just left behind, or the things that are more for collectors and not as easily given as gifts, they're the things that are sitting there in the stores. And so that can be a good time to find them. Then the next big time for me has always been, I try to get a lot of things in the last minute right before Christmas, especially expensive and unusual items. We always used to get a lot of last minute shoppers who were like, I need something special for someone. I don't know what it is, but I need help finding it. And so unusual jewelry, unusual art pieces, glass pieces, sculptures, all those sorts of things tended to be good sellers. And then small business, yeah, I think small business, it depends where you are, Mary Jo. Small business is either Saturday or Sunday, depending on the part of the country. Some places don't open on Sunday. I think it just depends on your local area. And Corey is saying, I never bought miniature antiques as Christmas gifts, but I intend to this year. And I have to say, it is really fun. It's a little more challenging. You have to think about what do the people I know collect, or you have to think in terms of what is a general item that might be more desirable at this time of year that people can appreciate even if they're not collectors per se. Hi, Beth Kemper. Great to see you. We're talking about Q4 and the Christmas shopping season and what's going on there. Don says you've been selling on Whatnot weekly for the last several weeks, trying to move things you picked up for letting little money and weed things out. That's a good way to use Whatnot. And you're selling about a third. I'd say that's pretty good, actually. And yes, Miss Wildlife's right. You might buy somebody something and then they say, ooh, I really like that. So what are some of those things? Well, first of all, what do you want for Christmas? What do you buy and what sells at Christmas for you? If you have any thoughts, put it in the comments. Because thrifting for Christmas gifts, yeah. So what kind of things are you looking for? And Corey, what sort of things have crossed your mind, and all you folks? Because it is more of a gift focus. So, you know, the question for me always was, do the people I'm looking for, do they understand and like old stuff or just stuff? And so I think in terms of, let me show you a few examples here. Okay, we'll get into white elephant gifts this year. Yes, those are great because you can find weird vintage stuff that people just go, they might not get it, but they sure think it's interesting. Okay, let me get into the overlays screen. I think this is going to work here. Well, we'll see. All right. Accessing, bear with me, operator error. Okay. Here we go. Okay, I'm upside down somehow. Let me try to get this figured out. I think we probably have the wrong source camera for this. So source camera. Okay, it's showing me, but it's not showing my overlays, so. This might be interesting. Unlock scene. Well, I haven't had this happen before. How about a hippopotamus? Well, we had one in the in what we just showed. All right. Well, bear with me, folks, because I am not seeming to get this to work. Well, this is fun. All right, I am. Bear with me a minute. We'll try to get this worked out here. I've certainly done it before, so. All right, well, we might just be talking about this rather than showing you pictures, but I will. This is being very naughty tonight for some reason. Go back to the main camera and see if we can get into it again this way. Yes, Jeopardy hum, exactly. Okay, well, it's just not seeming to want me to do this for some reason. And it was all working so well before, so. Okay, well, we've got our. There we go. Okay, now if we can just get the overlays to come, bear with me, folks. Ta-da, here we go. Of course, it's sideways, but you'll have to just take my word for it here. I'm just pleased that we got this far. So are you still hearing me and you can see sort of? Okay. Yes, it's a wonderful color. I love this color. I painted all my antique malls this color of yellow because it makes things look larger. So, okay, yeah, where's Zeno when you need him, right? Okay, so this is the 1955 S&H Green Stamps cover, and if you want an idea of things that might sell, maybe take a look at things that used to sell back in the day. Clocks and cameras. Tableware. I look for things like, okay, yay, here we go. I think we're on now. I look for things like, for example, the Fenton cake plate. I look for tableware, things that people can give as gifts. A nice candelabra. There's a lovely one on the table here that I will show you that my friend has, for example. Isn't this a pretty thing? And so, in fact, let me get that off, and then you will be able to see, yeah, isn't this beautiful? This is the sort of thing, it's showy, it's pretty, it's fun, and people who are getting something as a gift, even if you don't collect anything, you can find a place for a piece like that because it's going to be magnificent and it's going to draw attention, and especially at the holidays, people use this sort of thing. Corinne says a lot of milk glass. Yes, I look for a lot of red and green this time of year for the same reason. Let's see. Here's a beautiful Mexican sterling piece. This is Sanborn's, and I love their stuff. Of course, silver is expensive right now, and so silver is a good seller as a gift for a high-end clientele. And that's another good example. If you're going to do, like cookie jars have always been a pretty good seller, and here's Wachtersbach. This is from the 1980s. This is German. It's a really fun and festive and bright piece. That's something that people can find a use for, even if they're not collectors per se. And so these are the kind of things that I try to emphasize when I'm looking for things to put out in my spaces and on shows and live sales. I look for those kind of things that are going to grab people's attention and be universal, that a lot of people can like. Carol Sue says she's liking Arthur Court a lot. Arthur Court is generally hammered aluminum, but it has a very nice look to it, and that is definitely something that is, a lot of them were sold in gift boxes. I look for things that are in their original gift box. That's another way that you can approach that. Oh, Susan has Walker's mugs to sell. Great example. Just sold these, and there they are in their new home in Florida. It's what I'm referring to are the barley twist candlesticks, and she has them in a fall display. But candlesticks, like I showed the candelabra, this is a good time of year for that sort of thing because they definitely are popular with collectors and decorators and a bunch of people. So it's not just one customer. People who are not necessarily collectors can appreciate these. Obviously, toys are a thing. Jason Wrinkle is here in the chat, and I know that he's a big collector. He just bought some Disney pieces from me, little Bakelite pencil sharpeners from the 1930s. And here we have, that sort of thing obviously is going to be something that is going to appeal to a person who likes these things, even if they never thought of collecting them before. So toys are obviously a good thing, but plus you can put up a tree and put them underneath and put price tags on them, and it gets the idea across. Beth says that she sold a bunch of Holt Howard. That's another thing that's recognizable, I think, in terms of things that people recognize more readily. For example, Enid Collins is pretty recognizable. So if you're looking for purses or accessories, this is a thing that might be a good gift for someone. So I like to emphasize those things that people know or that are something that is a more universal collectible. A lot of people collect cats. Here's the Sophisticat perfume. It's kind of an easy thing where they get a little perfume, they get a cute thing to put on the dresser. It's in a gift box. Again, this is how this was sold originally. That's what the appeal was. That's what the appeal is to people now. You have a Bill Campbell candlestick looking for a mate. Yeah, that would be a good thing to find a mate for sure. Giftable items with ribbons under my tree in each booth. I could be highlighting some of these comments. I know you all follow along in the chat, but it looks similar to a Dalek from Doctor Who. Yes, it does actually. That's funny. Really, I mean, a lot of this stuff is pretty. Pretty is definitely a thing at the holidays. The weird, funky, offbeat collectible stuff that I like as a collector, that's for me to buy for myself. But this time of year, yeah, we're looking for pretty, we're looking for interesting, we're looking for that sort of stuff. Here's, again, there's the example. Jason left me this one, so I put it online and it's sold, and there's Pluto. And that's Bakelite from the 1930s. Accessories are good. This is a sterling card holder. And this is something that somebody could use who they don't necessarily have to be a collector. They just need to have a need for something like this that's useful to them, and then, oh wow, this is a cool old thing. This is unique. This isn't like what everybody else is getting you for Christmas, and yet it is absolutely something that is antique and vintage. So, and let's see, Corinne said something that was interesting, and you're putting what is not in other booths and then focusing on one booth that is, that's a good way too. I think sometimes putting a focus or even a section in a booth that is just about that. Or if you're having a bunch of live sales, have one live sale that's focused on these type of items and make it about that. Art books are good. This one happens to be a Christmas art book from the 1960s. But art books, biographies, things that are vintage but have general interest to a wider group of people. This is the Norman Mailer book on Marilyn Monroe. And thank you. Yes, after I saw that, I was tempted to keep the card holder. And not new Christmas stuff. Yeah, I have to say, for me, some people mix the old and the new and they do it well. I don't really personally care to do that. I want it to all be vintage because that's what I do. So this is a neat piece, and this is something that I hadn't thought of, but I was looking and somebody online said, hey, you know what? blankets and large linens that people can use are actually something that people give as gifts, and you can do vintage. And this is a nice 1950s peacock chenille. So I thought that was really cool. And yeah, see, a lot of people love art books. And I think that's the point, is you're looking for things that a lot of people in the general public can really understand and appreciate. Let's see here. Cats again, this is a Culver glass bar set with a bunch of cats on it. So it's Culver, it's collectible. You can get your folks who are into, oh, I like cats. Well, here's this. And by the way, it's collectible because it's this company, and they made other cool barware too. Barware sells well this time of year because this is one time of year where people are more likely to have people in to entertain, and they can use this kind of stuff. And then we have New Year's as well, so that's a double whammy there. Yes, I noticed you like the vintage sheets. I think that's actually a really fun thing too. Practical things that you can keep things in are another thing that are good gifts as far as vintage. The Russian box here, dresser boxes in general, boxes in general seem to be popular, and you can also, people can use them to put gifts in, like if you're giving someone jewelry, old jewelry boxes sell really well this time of year. So that's another thing that you might think of in terms of your merchandising. Or if you're buying for friends, that's another thing you might think of because it's something that's useful for them. Yeah, exactly. I'd use those. Well, yeah, me too. What would you price the Russian box? Well, that one I actually sold online, and it went for about, ooh, I think a little over $30 with the shipping, somewhere 32-ish. And that's probably a fair price for that. I see them sometimes go higher. It really depends on the signatures and the delicacy of the painting as well as the age. If they're really old ones, they go for substantially more. If they're kind of newish tourist items that aren't really as well formed, then they can go for less. But that's kind of a good general range, I think. And then there's the idea of something interesting and strange that is just, wow, that's a knockout. That's something fun to use, and it's really cool to look at. And those things actually can be really good gifts too. This happens to be a very expensive old telescope from the 1800s, but they did a lot of telescopes that are brass and neat looking back in the 1960s and 70s because it was a decorative thing, and it is today as well. So I think they're really neat. Corey has got a good point here. Music boxes or something. If people are interested in music or they just like that, that is a great idea as well. So, and there's a lot that are vintage now. I mean, the San Francisco Music Box Company used to be jammed in the malls at Christmas. Well, they're out of business now. They're gone. So there you go. Now you've got a vintage market in it. Carol Sue says she embroiders pillowcases for the nieces, and I think that you probably would see embroidered pillowcases as a thing that would be of interest to people. So, so just one moment here. Let me get myself back up here. Trying very hard to be a little more agile with the camera. There we go. Other showcase pieces for around the house, paperweights. If you like glass and you think other people would enjoy glass, that's definitely a thing that could be interesting to people. There's some broad categories, video games, vinyl, things like that. You have to have a lot of selection, but again, they're memorable, and there's a group of people who will spot those and find them interesting. Things like telescopes, clocks, cameras, vintage phones, radios, they're more, for most people, a decorative thing, and maybe they just want one to put on a shelf, but that is also a group of things that can sell in this time of year. And then musical instruments are another thing. So there's a lot of categories that could be gift focused, and if you head towards those, you're more likely to have success as a seller. And if you're looking for things as a gift buyer, you're more likely to have people be interested and get it, even if they're not antique people per se. Although I still love the idea Corey had about about the white elephant gifts. We had we had this horrible, ugly teapot that looked like a big mushy layer cake. It was just awful. And it came to one of the staff parties for the antique malls. And it was given as a white elephant gift, and it was the gift everybody shunted off on someone else. And at the end of the year, or at the end of the party, well, it went home with some poor victim who kept it for an entire year, and the next year it appeared at the white elephant party again. And that went on for 3 years. And finally, at the end of the third year, I took it because we were having another party in another mall the next night, and I took it, and it made the rounds of that party for the next 3 years. So white elephant can be pretty fun. Auto harp might be a little bit obscure for a lot of people. When I say musical instruments, I'm thinking more like things that look fun on a wall, mandolins and ukuleles and that sort of thing. But who knows? I mean, you never know. An auto harp might just be interesting enough for someone. Nautical, absolutely, especially if people live in a certain place, if they live near a lake, if they live where, like I know you live, where you have a nice view of the water. That is definitely, nautical can definitely be a good seller to people in those areas. Yes. Well, this is, again, that's where nostalgia starts is, yeah, we let go of things and then later we think, oh, I wish I still had that. And there we go. That's the next thing that we're looking for and collecting. And so, anyway, so I think that you probably get the idea about all of that, but I just thought it was fun, and because we are at that time of the season that people, I mean, there's starting to be a million ads about this sort of thing, and there we are. And so I thought, well, this would be a good time to talk about that kind of thing. My friend is still working hard, so I'm going to bring her in after we talk about some other things. I wanted to. I had one person and I want to encourage you folks, whenever you see that we're going to have one of these chats, please, by all means, feel free to send me an email and talk about topics that are of interest to you, because that helps me figure out things for me to prepare for and be able to, I like this to be a two-way exchange of ideas and notions and all of that kind of thing. And so we had some great suggestions last month, and then in a video premiere that I did last week, I think one person asked and a couple of people seconded in the chat that they really would like to talk a little bit about bottles. So, but first I want to highlight this from Deb's Finds, because I think this is absolutely right. Try to find the vintage versions of what people like, collect, or want. Yes, Sarah, hello, you're there. That's great. Yes, we'll get to bottles in just a minute, but yeah, again, just in with what Deb's saying, and I'm sorry that it's crooked and sideways, but it's still a good, it's a great source. I'm going to actually put this one on eBay to sell here. Let me see if I can find it. Oh, I didn't actually show you. Whoops. Let me take down the telescope picture. I didn't actually show you. There's the game console for Atari. Somebody would love to have that, especially with all the games. Somebody who played with that back in the day. But the one I'm looking for is here, and it is sideways, but the point is more the point, which is old catalogs that show the kind of things people were getting as gifts. This is an old S&H catalog, and you have a nautical clock. Corey mentioned nautical. You have cameras. You have, there's a whole bunch of things in here. I didn't get all of the pictures of it, but old catalogs can still be great inspiration for new ideas about old things that people are into. So let's see here. Oh, hi, Sarah, you're working. Okay, very good. Well, I'll tell you what. We're going to talk bottles for a little bit here, because I have to say I knew a little bit about bottles going into this, and you sent me down the rabbit hole. So, and thankfully the rabbit hole was pretty easy to go down, because I'm going to give you, oh, yes. service merchandise is a great thing. Zeno always talks about how when he was a kid, service merchandise was the place that they went for stuff around Christmas. And their catalogs absolutely show a ton of cool stuff. So, but anyway, let's go down the bottle rabbit hole a little bit, and then hopefully my friend will be done with her chores and she can join us because we have some fun things to talk about what we've been doing here. So let me get back to. Okay, hopefully we're in the right overlay screen because I'm seeing me in double, but does Zeno have a vacuum catalog? I love that idea. I show him pictures of old vacuums all the time and he just laughs. Okay, we're going to go down here, past those, and my poor old eyes, I have to find where I am. Okay, let's start with this and see what comes up. Oh boy, it's really tiny, but that's okay. We'll talk and we'll show pictures because there are definitely a bunch. Here we go. I can actually enlarge it on the screen. Good. This is good because this will be helpful. Okay, so first of all, let's talk briefly about why bottles are cool and why they were so important. I mean, they've been around since the Mesopotamians and the Romans, and then they came back, of course, in the Middle Ages. And then we had the moment where we start using them as containers, and that had to do with glass blowing, but they were expensive. Bottles cost like 25 cents a piece back when the contents cost a nickel. And so because of that, a lot of things weren't put in bottles for a long time. It really wasn't until the 19th century that you see a lot of bottles in use. And here's an example of an old one, and here's how you can tell that it's old. Oh, I do like that idea. Yes, it would be great to see old catalogs. I will start accumulating some. We'll do that sometime. I like that idea. Anyway, so here's a bottle. This is an old one. Look at the top and how irregular it is. That's because that all had to be hand blown. The seam stops and then they have to put this blob on the top. So that tells you that we're looking like in the mid-1800s. And I think I've got a nice picture here of a whole bunch of stuff. Okay. Yeah, here's an example with an iron pontal on the bottom where they actually pressed it in with a piece of iron and it has a black mark. That's something they did back in like the 1850s and 60s. But then here, okay, wait a second, I know what I'm doing wrong. I want to start down at the bottom of these pictures. Yeah, here we go. So this is why bottles are cool to collectors. They come in so many colors. They come in so many shapes. They are fun to group together. It became really popular in the 1970s to go dig bottles out of dumps because the prices started to really go up with collectors because they started to appreciate that these things were expensive and they got used over and over. Talk about reuse. Back in the Victorian times, you didn't throw a bottle away and you didn't recycle it. You kept it and you used it over and over and over because they cost money. There's a good question. A two-piece or a three-piece mold? So in the 1860s and 70s, they had to hinge molds with three pieces. So you'll see mold seams in various places around the bottle. Later on, they got to where they could just do two, and that was enough to separate it, and that made a big difference. And so three-piece mold is going to be older than a two-piece mold. Oh yes, that's good. Yeah, well, you live in a part of the country too. You're in the Northeast, and that's where you'll see a lot of old bottles and pieces coming out of digs and all of that. And how could they survive all these years? Because they were spendy and people held on to them. People didn't really start throwing them into dumps until the 1900s, and so that's why, even though they're older than that, you still can find early bottles in later dump sites because people held on to them for a long time. Sometimes it's about the label, but it also, oh, interesting, yep. yeah, the soldiers' home, they would have had interesting things because they would have had lots of medicine bottles. And I'm going to show you a little bit about some of the different styles so that you can see here. Okay. Um, okay, so this is 20th century because it has a maker name. That's Owens, Illinois on the bottom. Of course, they didn't bother with that back in the 19th century because everything was hand blown. So you're going to see a big scar on the bottom. And hand blown is going to be before about 1903. It wasn't until then that a fellow named Owens, who was working with Thomas Edison, came up with the machine that made all of these bottles possible that we have now that are mass produced. And so, oops, we saw that. Here's another reason people really like them. Look at all these interesting shapes. The green one down here on the left side is typical of what we see around the time of the Civil War. It has an interesting shape. Those were usually for medicines or bitters or that sort of thing. But you see ones that are barrel shaped and that are tall, and you notice a lot of them have ribs on them. And the reason for the ribbing was that if you had, for example, poison and it was the middle of the night and you wanted to make sure you didn't take the medicine bottle, of course the medicines were largely poison anyway, but if you wanted to make sure you didn't grab the poison bottle and swallow that when you meant to get your medicine, well, then you had texture on the side, and that way you could tell in the dark that, oh, I've got the wrong bottle. And so that was a thing as well. Embossing came a little bit later, so when you see bottles that are embossed with the maker name and the information on that, that's really pretty much 1880s, 1890s, and on from there, because before that they didn't really have, it was too complicated and things were mainly blown by hand. It's funny, the bottle has ears. And that is the reason that we don't see embossing until that time. So that's a good way to make a date on them. Oh, sorry, there's a whole bunch of Willie Joe. It's great to have you. Happy Wednesday. My comments kind of stopped. The blue one does look like milk of magnesia. The colors don't change as much in the early bottles, and that is because the color was part of the bottle. The chemical was used to make that. Later bottles, they wanted to be clear, and so they put manganese in to give them clarity, and the manganese is what turns lavender if you leave a bottle in the sun for a long time, if it's an older bottle. Nowadays, if you leave a bottle in the sun a long time, it turns a really not very pretty yellow color because the chemicals we use for clarity now are different and they turn to yellow. Bitters, yes, they can be worth quite a lot. And yes, that is scary. There's a wonderful series that I recommend if you are interested in such things, where they talk about dangers in the Victorian home, and they go by subject and various things that people just took for granted every day and used every day that would kill you or hurt you or cause problems down the road. And actually, there's a bunch from the 20th century as well that are out there. It's a very interesting series. What was the purpose of owning poison? Well, that could have been for a few things. Certain poison things were actually seen as topical remedies or cleansers. For example, in the Victorian period, there's this wonderful bottle that's embossed that says microbe killer, and it has this thing that's got a stake and this very evil looking humanoid that's going to kill the microbes. And that's what they were doing, was they, oh, the poison will kill the things that are worse for us. So that was the idea behind that. Arsenic, yes, exactly. And of course, sometimes poison was, well, to do away with your enemies, as in arsenic and old lace. So, oh yes, catching your curtains on fire. Yeah, there was that whole thing, fairy lamps, as much as people love them now. They would put fairy lamps in the windows under the big heavy draperies, and then the draperies would catch fire in the night and the house would burn down. That happened a lot in the Victorian time. Oh, how interesting. Do you remember what that went for? They sold a Victorian sealed bottle of hemlock. That would be pretty cool, actually. And yes, that is a great movie, Beth, isn't it? Let's see here. So let's show some different shapes just to give you a general idea of what you might expect to find. Okay, so here's one. Labels really don't come about until the advent of lithography, color lithography in the 1870s, 80s, 90s period. That's when you get really cool paper labels, and they can make bottles worth a lot of money. A lot of times you'll see where a bottle has lost its identification because the label is gone. Labels are definitely something worth looking for on bottles. Um, I went for $50. Yeah, it could have gone for more, but that's interesting. And uranium fairy lamps, yes, that's a nice choice, absolutely. Let's see what we can show you here. Unfortunately, these pictures, every time you hit one, that skips back. So um, let's show you these. Okay, so these are liquor bottles. Liquor bottles came in a lot of different shapes, and it was partly to be fancy and partly just because they experimented a lot. They had to figure out what was easy to shape, what wouldn't break when they were blowing it on the pipe. They would have to. Um, oh, poison rings are really cool. Yes, I really like those. My sister had one when I was growing up, and that's right. Yes, yes, it happened right where you are in New England. Um, okay, so liquor bottles, again, ones with labels are going to tend to do very well. Embossing is going to depend. Some are very common and some are very scarce, and it really depends on the bottler. If it was in a very small town, even the old Coke bottles on the bottom in the early days would have the city where the bottling company was, and that's what they would do to highlight, to tell you where it was from. And so, for example, my cousin was digging in Florida, and he found a Coke bottle from St. Petersburg, Florida. Well, that bottling plant was established in 1910, and it was one of the early bottles from that period. St. Petersburg only had 10,000 people in 1910, and because of that, that's a $100 bottle, whereas a bottle made by Coca-Cola with the curves in the 30s that says Tampa, Florida, for example, well, they made thousands and thousands and thousands of those, and they're worth about $5. So, um, but anyway, liquor bottles definitely a sub area of collecting. Um, I think it was a little more approximate, but they did have molds, and they would make the molds so that the bottle would be about the same size, roughly the same size, so that when they filled it, they were getting roughly the same contents. Okay. Um, Steamboat Arabian, Kansas. You can see shipments going to Virginia City, Montana. Oh, I bet that's actually really cool. Virginia City was a big deal for a brief period of time. Okay, let's see. Here's another type. Okay, now this is the one we see these. These are typically from about the Civil War time, and these are the scroll bottles, they call them, and they are about 7 inches tall, and these typically held liquor. And these are pretty collectible because liquor, again, whiskey was not just a drink. If you were in the field and somebody got injured, a bottle of whiskey was what you used as disinfectant. Um, so it wasn't just for drinking. And so you'll find these in Civil War sites and other places like that as well. Duraglass, yes, that is right. Duraglass was the trade name of Owens, Illinois. If you look on the bottom of that grape juice bottle, you'll see an O with a funny bar through it, and that's OI for Owens, Illinois. And Duraglass was their line. And yes, it looks exactly like a giant pear. Let's see what else we can show you here. Okay, these are flasks, and of course, flasks oftentimes were for whiskey because they fit in a pocket pretty well. And this one is, as you can see, it talks about St. Louis 1904, and it was made in Portland, Oregon. And this would be pretty collectible at my show in Portland, Oregon, because that's where you have the most collectors, is where these pieces came from. But it won the gold medal at the World's Fair in 1904, and this is one of the very first bottles, if you notice. The seams go all the way to the top, and the lip is part of the bottle because that's when they started being able to press that. Before that, they had to apply a top every time they made a bottle. let's see here. Okay, here are wine bottles and the like. And oh good, my friend's almost done. Well, we'll have fun with her in a minute here. So, but let me show you a few more bottles while we're at it. This is a grouping of wine bottles, and notice some of them tip sideways. Those are going to be your hand blown. Notice some of them have little stoppers made of marbles or corks or that sort of thing. And that is where you see the variation. The colors tend to be dark because if they had to be stored for a while, they wanted to keep the contents from spoiling. And so usually you don't see clear until later in time when we have refrigerators and things like that. So those can be clues as to older versus newer too. Okay, here is a group. This is beer bottles. 99 bottles of beer on the wall, where there's about 99 different varieties of bottles of beer. Again, mostly dark to preserve the contents. You see some pretty good labels on some of these. You see some pretty neat colors like cobalt and brown and all this sort of thing. Absolutely, for the most part, people collect bottles from where they're from. So in the United States, it's United States bottles that they want. If you're in Europe, they more likely want English bottles. Now, there are a few exceptions. I found an English bottle that had a very strange name, Daddy's Tonic or something like that, I think it was called. Very common bottle in England, but I bought it because I thought the name is going to make someone laugh and they're going to buy it because people in the States haven't seen them, and sure enough, it sold right away. If it was in England, it would have probably sold for half. So there are exceptions to the rule, but generally speaking, people want bottles. And even more specifically, if you're in California and you can find early California bottles when not a lot of people live there, those are going to be collectible. If you're on the East Coast, then people want things from where they lived. My cousin from Denver has a huge collection I'll have to show you sometime, and his are all from that area because that's where he worked on his bottle digging and collection. So the next group here I'll show you real quickly. These are soda, and again, they seem similar, but soda tended to have these in the early days. See the green one third from the left? That is a blob top, and the idea behind that is they needed a bigger cork because it was carbonated and they didn't want the cork to shoot out. And so way back when, they sealed them with wax, and then they did corks, and then they had to have something that could hold. In Europe, they would use marbles. You see the one on the right there that has a marble in the top. And then on the bottom laying sideways, I used to think that those were made for ships so they wouldn't roll around. Well, sure, they could have used them on a ship, but actually those are soda bottles, and the idea was that they were carbonated and they wanted to put them on their side so that the carbonation rose to the top and didn't try to leak out or shoot out the top. You know, I will take pictures of your collection at some point, Corinne. Yeah, they have a great collection of old bottles and a bunch of other really neat old stuff. So we'll definitely have to show you that sometime. Here's this blob top in person where you can see it a little bit better. So that's the idea behind that. Here's one that would have had a bale. They still do this, I think, on, is it, oh shoot, one of the European beers still does this. And thank you, Japan still uses marbles in their soda bottles. Very good. Yes, I had forgotten about that. That's absolutely right. And so Americans find those interesting, even the new ones, just because of that feature. Let's see here. There's your sideways bottle. Here's another type. These are usually European, where they have this crimp so that they could wire around it. Again, they were worried about the carbonation going out the top. And I'm a blob top. Well, I would not describe you that way, but here is a medicinal group. Now, medicine bottles, a lot of these were really alcohol too, so they're flask-like, but they're trying to seem legit. So snake oil bottles, and you see lots of different sizes and shapes depending on the medicine and the amount. Again, a lot of dark colors to keep the medicine inside from going bad or reacting. When would the, oh yes, okay, the metal pull down clamps to close the bottle, those are pretty typically 1880s and 1890s when they start using the porcelain caps. And that was because it was a way that you could keep using it so you didn't have to drink the whole contents at once because the carbonation would go away. You could actually reseal it and it might last a couple of days. And so it took a little while for them to catch on to that. Let's see what else we have here. Okay, food bottles obviously are a giant area of collecting. The big advances were Mason's patent in the United States in 1858 and some other patented bottles that came about in the mid 1800s so that you could preserve food. And that was a huge advancement because before that they could preserve things in tin cans, but that was about it. And then you see, again, you see ribbed pieces and things. That's more a stylistic thing where food is concerned. Hemingway, that's the other patent that is very important. At a certain point, they figured out how to make, again, around the 1890s, they figured out how to make the bottles with screw threads so that you could screw on a cap. Actually, that's more about the 1910s. And so before that, you had to have the metal bail and you had to have the seal, and then all of a sudden you could just screw the cap on and off, and that made a huge difference. And that's when bottles start to get cheap, is the 1900s, and that's when people start throwing bottles away, which is where a lot of bottles and bottle digs that are older than that ended up in landfills. And so that's why you can find an 1850s bottle in a place that was not established until the 1900s because people took their bottles with them until that time. Interesting. Even today, yes, even today, certain medications have to be stored in glass. And now with everybody talking about the worries about microplastics in bottles, well, we might go back to glass. You never know. Here we have a set of milk bottles, and you notice the funny tops. Those are cream tops, so the cream would separate and then they would have a little spoon so you could spoon the cream off the top and make whipped cream and use it for other things. And that was the thing until the 1930s. You also notice painting on bottles. That comes about in the early 20th century and is a thing until about the 1950s. And let's see what else we have here. Ink bottles typically look like this, or they're hexagonal, and they are generally a ground stopper because they were a cheap bottle to make because they were small. And then of course you get into art bottles, and from there you can go to decanters and all sorts of things that are really fun but are way beyond the scope of this particular advertising. And yes, I think the cream scoop things are really cool. I love the shapes of those. They're my favorite ones to find when I'm out there. This is a Barber bottle. This is, I believe this is one of the Findlay, Ohio patterns here with the metal stopper in it. And they're really cool because they put tonic in it, and then you could just keep reusing them, and you would leave them at the barber shop unless you had a fancy one at home for your home use. But generally you went to the barber to get that. So, and is that? Here we go. Labels, like I say, labels definitely can make things more valuable and are more impressive there. And there's a nice group with labels on them. And okay, so here's where we get into machine molding. This is the late 1800s. Now this one's not after 1903 because notice the seam goes all the way to the top. Before that, you would have had to apply the top on as a different thing. So that was the difference there. And we've just got a few more here I'll show you, and then I will bring on our special guest. I'm so happy that she's here. Here's something just to know, since we're getting into nerddom here now. Old wine bottles, there's a little bit of a faint concentric ring. It's hard to see, but you can get it in that picture, and that's because they had to turn the bottle in the mold when they were making it to get that long neck. And so on a bottle from the late 1800s, you'll see those little rings around it, and that's how you can tell it's 19th century and not 20th century. there is a giant subculture of collectors for bottles, and that's why when this was suggested, I thought this is a universal enough topic, and it's things we are going to find in our wanderings that I thought it was worth talking about. Um, and then, let me see. Okay, we showed you this, and I think, here we go. This is a strange thing I didn't know about until the around the 1900s. You'll sometimes see little bumps, and this is a way to date bottles too, and they're called mold air venting marks, and it was when the mold had to have a little bit of extra space and the glass would bubble up into it, and that's where you get these little bubbles, and that's because otherwise the heat from pressing it, this was new technology, they had to vent the heat off because otherwise the bottle would crack in the process of making it, and so they're really subtle, and that's why I showed you a diagram instead of actually showing you an example, because you can't really see it unless you're looking really up close. For more information on this, I have to say I got a ton of help in most of these pictures from a site that I was really surprised. If you go to the Bureau of Land Management, of all places, and hopefully I thought that I wrote the website down so that you could see, but unfortunately, I don't think that I did. But anyway, go to BLM. If you just put in a Google search, BLM bottle info, it'll take you to the Bureau of Land Management. Apparently, they had so many people who were looking through their old places. You know, they were looking at bottle dumps, and they were looking at wanting to, you know, have people be able to identify what they were finding, which surprised me because I wasn't really sure that they would want you digging on public land, but apparently you can in many places, and so they figured that giving a guide so that you knew what you were looking at would be helpful, and it's one of the most well-researched guides I've ever seen. So, and hello, I'm glad you joined us. Yes, we are having, yeah, this is the Level 3 live chat, and we've just been talking about bottles because that was suggested by Sarah Wrinkle and a couple of other people as a topic. And so again, go to blm.gov, I think it is, but just do a Google search for BLM bottle information, and you will be able to find out even more, and you can become quite an expert because the guy who wrote it, I mean, he goes way deep into all this stuff. And I thought I knew some things about bottles, and I learned a bunch just scanning this. So thank you for suggesting the topic. I think that was just really fun. And now if I'm so glad this worked out perfectly because my friend has been diligently working with someone in the house, and now she's free, and you've met her before. And I'm sorry I can't seem to bring the camera into a better place, so we're going to have to sit really close. Hi there.
Hi.
Hi, everybody. So this is the lovely Betty R, as I like to call her. And she really is. I have to say, I've had such a nice time. I am in Tijuana at Tijuana Playas.
Yes.
And it's just been, it's a wonderful place, and she's been just so fantastic, and I can't wait till we go see more things.
Yes, lots more things.
Yeah. So, gosh, I don't even know where to begin other than, well, we have, this is why I'm not doing the show in Florida this month, folks. So I will not be at Mount Dora because I am here, and it's turned out to be badly needed R&R and very therapeutic. So thank you for that, and
absolutely.
Everyone is saying hello, and
hi everyone.
So gosh, we've been babbling about a bunch of things, and I guess one thing that I'm curious about is so obviously, I mean, Betty's lived right by the border her whole life. She speaks really fluent English, and she's, I would say, is bicultural a fair description? Yeah.
Fair, absolutely fair.
Yeah, I think absolutely that's the case. I'm going to see if I can't get this in where.
That's fine.
Yeah, I guess it's going to have to do, but we'll get it so that we can see both of us. There we go.
Okay. Hi.
So,
Back together.
yes, back together. So,
Hmm.
um, so
Bicultural, yes.
what does that mean in terms of Christmas for you?
Oh, well, I mean, I do remember my dad because he worked at the Star of the Sea restaurant in the Bay. That when we were kids, he would take us. I think it was mid-December, somewhere around the 18th, and they would have this go about with boats, and they would have lights and have Christmas
Oh,
decorations.
like the Christmas ships, yeah.
Yes, yes, that was fun as a kid. I remember that. That's sort of bicultural because it's in the Bay in San Diego, and then as far as here in Tijuana in the house, well, we usually decorate with a Christmas major, little figurines that describe the nativity.
Yeah, like the one that we just saw, the video that I premiered tonight. We had at the
Okay,
estate sale, we had a
you had
Mexican
one.
Christmas crushing
Yes.
pottery, and it was really cool. It's actually was the thing I priced the most expensive in the whole house.
Oh, really?
Yeah, people are really into them now.
Yeah, as far as I remember, they come from the state of Puebla,
Mm.
and they are, enigmatic of a certain style, if you will. Yeah. So for Christmas, that, and of course, Christmas, New Year's, all the way through to the 6th of November, which is when we celebrate the arrival of the Three Kings.
Oh,
So
yeah,
all
that's
of
like Epiphany in the Eastern Orthodox Church. Yeah,
Yeah.
the 6th of
Here
January.
in here in Mexico, we start on the 12th of December because it is the national day for Our Lady of Guadalupe. So we really start, we'd say the Guadalupe Reyes period because we start on the 12th with her, and then we end on the other side with the Three Kings, a celebration of the Three Kings on the 6th of January. So in all that space, we are having posadas, we are having reunions with friends, we are prepping for what we're having on Christmas, Christmas morning, what we're having for New Year's, and the first of the year as well, and then we end with La Rosca de Reyes on the 6th of January. So yeah, that's almost a month
It
that
sounds
we're celebrating
fun.
something. Yeah.
That sounds awesome,
Yeah.
actually. So I have to say, for me, it's been interesting because it starts on the 12th, and it seems like it's
Mhm.
very much like people wait till then
Yes.
more. And it was so interesting because we were watching football the other day, and so we have the San Diego station on because we're in Tijuana Playas on the beach,
Mhm.
and all of a sudden I was like, oh, all these Christmas commercials. And it really kind of, it was like out of the blue because here you're not seeing this emphasis on like Christmas commercial gift things.
Yeah, no. I don't know. I don't know what it is. I mean, there will be some, but it's more of the having a reunion, because you're gonna have your posada with your coworkers. Most offices, most companies, they'll have one moment where they'll come together, right,
Yeah.
and celebrate their what we call posada. And it's more about that, more about the reunion, more about
The
coordinating.
gathering and the
Yeah,
people.
where you're going to gather, whose house is it going to be, and more of that.
Yeah.
Yeah. You see a lot of people at the supermarkets. Yeah, it's a whole thing. You have to
So
prep early if you want the good quality, because if not, they'll beat you to it.
it's all
So
gone.
yes, exactly.
Oh, that's interesting. So it's really more about the feasting and the getting together as much as it is. But there is a gift giving tradition here, right?
Oh, sure, absolutely. I
Yeah.
mean, yeah. Well, here's the thing. If you're a little child, you're born here in the border, you don't compute that you are crossing to another country. All we are doing is going to San Diego, we're going to Chula Vista, we're going to see family, or we're going to SeaWorld, or we're going to the zoo, the San Diego Zoo, or we're going to Legoland or Disneyland. That's just what we're doing. You know, it's you put it in the calendar. Oh, this date we're doing this. Now, more mundane things when we cross a border. Usually, here's the thing, because if when I was a teenager and we would travel to Mexico City or Guadalajara, and they had these wonderful department stores. Liverpool, Palacio de Hierro,
Oh, that place is
Fábricas de
amazing.
Francia. Yeah, to die for items that weren't, I mean, shoes, clothing, coats, all of this. So grand, so lovely. But we never got those department stores here because the cost of them bringing their merchandise all the way up here to the north was, you know, too much of a cost. So, in order to compensate and really get that quality, what we would do is cross the border and buy it in Chula Vista. And we will go to Robinson's May, to Macy's, and some other stores that I don't remember, but I know
The Broadway.
Yeah, Broadway. That's right.
That's where my mom went every
Yeah,
Christmas.
actually, we would go to the. I remember they would take me to the Chula Vista Shopping Center, and they would have these big bubbles, and it would have, you know, a Christmas theme, and they would move, and you have like four in a row, and that was, I remember that as being a lot of fun.
Oh, that sounds really cool.
Yeah.
I don't remember that.
You're,
That's
I was
interesting.
going to ask you if you were taken to
Yeah.
that. Yeah, because they were there for a very long time. As a child, I do remember that. Yeah, it was kind of a sphere, and then they would move. They were, you know, sort of like It's a Small World.
Oh,
Sort of
yeah.
like that kind of aesthetic for you know, the I don't know what you would call them, but the figurines, if
Mhm.
you will. Yeah, I remember those. And so that's what happens. You go and you buy Nike, you buy, you know, all of these
Your name brand
brands,
stuff.
yeah,
Mhm.
and just cross the border and get it. So instead, I mean, flying to Mexico City would have been more expensive, right? Or
Right.
Guadalajara.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's how the city compensates, right? Or citizens that live here compensate with if they have bought high end, they can just cross the border.
Well, and I mean, when you say the citizens, Tijuana is so huge compared
Yeah.
to what I remember as a child. It's
Yes.
funny because ironically, I lived probably about as close to the bullfighting ring as I am to the bullfighting ring at Betty's house, which is just so crazy to me. So we both lived like on opposite sides of the border, right next to each other,
That's right. Yeah.
which I think is just so
Yeah,
cool
yeah, yeah.
because I could see it from my backyard. In fact, when we went up the beach, I looked and I could see the old helicopter base and helicopters landing and taking off. And I remember as a kid, that was our backyard. I just watched them land and take off when I was out playing every day. And I just thought everybody had helicopters. And now I'm a grown up and I'm like, where's my helicopter?
They're there,
They're there.
apparently.
They're all there still, yes. So yeah, it's really interesting, and yeah, when you're here, the border seems like it's just sort of a formality. It's just sort
A
of
total formality.
yeah,
It's an everyday occurrence. I mean, if somebody gives you a recipe and they say, "Oh, but this item you need to buy at Walmart USA." Oh, okay, so just write it down, and you're there tomorrow. You're
hmm
there later that day. I mean, Walmart closes at what, midnight? So
yeah. You just show up.
yeah, you could just
Yeah,
cross whenever, really. If you have a party tomorrow and you have to make that recipe, I mean, I'm talking mundane. I mean, yeah. Hmm.
yeah. It's so interesting to me
Yeah.
because for us, I have to say our mindset was like, oh, Tijuana's this exotic place that we have to like. It's a trip, and you go and you bring your out of town guests, and it wasn't like just oh, just go there, you know. And now I'm realizing, oh, we missed out.
Yeah, yeah, it was like a field trip for you, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
No, we used to cross the border when we were children because we liked the flavor of the milk. And so we would go to Safeway. Mom, we're out of milk. Okay, get in the car. We're going to Safeway. And that was it.
It's yeah, Tijuana is so very different than I remember as a child, and I mean it's big and it's modern, and there's a lot of cool stuff here. The beach is really lovely, and the people are great, and not just you, but actually everybody I've
Oh,
encountered so far has
good.
been really, I don't speak good Spanish. They've been very patient with me. It's just been really nice. Now we also
Mhm.
went to the Mercado.
Yes, they are called sobre ruedas. And on Mondays, we get it here in my neighborhood, here in Playas de Tijuana. On other days, they are in other neighborhoods. And basically, sobre ruedas, what it translates to, it's something that it's moving, that you can transport, that you can move.
Oh, that's
So
what that is.
yeah,
Okay.
that it's not like a conventional.
Not a fixed site where they
Exactly,
go to the
fixed
same
site.
place all the
That's right.
time.
Hmm.
Hmm. Well, so we went there, and we're going to do a little show and tell and show some of the stuff that we found,
Yes.
because we did find some neat stuff. There, it's mostly not about antiques and vintage. It's mostly about practical things,
Hmm.
lots of clothes. I bought socks that I needed. I bought a nice shirt. Well, actually, we got this at another place that's
Yeah, another place.
like a bin store.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, yeah, they have those here now too. And I had never been to one actually. Well, that's not true. I went to one in Ohio, but it didn't have clothes, and this was great, and it was $10, and it's a wonderful shirt.
Hmm.
But there's also a few little. There's not. There's a couple of antique stores in Tijuana we haven't been yet,
No, we
um,
haven't been yet.
but it's on the list.
Absolutely. There's a lot to do.
There is, and but we did find one little place that sells mainly muebles, furniture, and but
Hmm.
they had some accessories as well. So we've been to a couple of those, and we didn't get a chance to tell you this, or maybe your aunt did, but
Yeah, you went today,
we
right?
went today
Yes.
on the way home. Oh, she told you,
Wonderful.
yes. Well,
I'm on top of things.
yeah. Well, I will let you take these out of the bag first because these are what I got today, so you haven't
Oh,
seen
yes.
them.
Oh, wonderful.
Now, the first one is something she really hated, she being her aunt. Her aunt was not impressed when I picked this up.
Oh, can I show?
Yes, please.
Okay. Let's
Yeah,
see.
and it's this camera here.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah. But I thought it was really cool because it's
It
cast
is.
iron and it's a spider. And it's
Uh-huh.
got a little well inside. And I don't know if that's for incense or
A candle?
a candle, maybe, like a votive. And then on the bottom, if you show the underneath, it is there we go. Yeah, you can see it was all done by hand. So somebody handmade this, and it looks like it has a little age to me. I'm thinking it's the kind of thing people did in like the 70s or 80s, and the price
Yeah,
was
70s. Oh, 150?
150. Yeah, and the peso is roughly between 19 and 20 per dollar. So 150 pesos, that was about $8 roughly. And then I got this book.
Oh, okay, that's what. Here we
And
go.
this book to me was really an interesting surprise because, oh, you could do napkins in that. I could see you could use that as a napkin arranger, kind of like the figures with the napkin holders. It is a cool spider. Oodalali appreciates it. See, I knew someone would. Your aunt was just like, I don't want that near me. And I'm like, it's okay. I'll keep it upstairs. But this book is, I just thought this was interesting. Talk about a whole lot of things in one place. So the book was 30 pesos, which is about between $1.50 and $2. And a lot of books
Mhm.
sell for $1.50 or $2. And I'd never heard of this book, but it had a dust jacket, and that always makes me pay attention. And then it has this sticker in here. So somehow this came here from Boise, Idaho. And there's the original owner or one of the owner's names. And I looked and thought, well, this seems kind of interesting because when I opened it up and it said it's called Badahur means hero, and I thought, well, in what language is that? And it had a whole glossary, and it turns out that this is something based in Hindu culture. And so they have this whole glossary. Now, I'm trying to learn Spanish and I'm already confused enough, so I don't think I need to read this right now. But at some point, I will. But it also said it was the first printing, and I thought, oh, dust jacket, first printing. That's when I start to look at books, and I like them when they're this size because this is kind of the old hardback size that
Mm-hmm.
used to be what books were like. And so I looked it up, and one sold on eBay for $25. And I was like, wow. So I grabbed it. So that was our buy today.
Okay, your finds for today.
That was our finds for today.
Okay.
But then here is the stuff, and I'll let you.
Okay.
I'll let you pull out the. I'm going to let her pull out the jewelry because she's, or actually, you can just pull out anything, and we'll go through here. So these are just little fun things that are small that I can take back. Ah, yes. Yeah. So we found a fellow who sold jewelry, which, and I'm going to let you do the pronunciation so I don't massacre it in Spanish.
Oh, what of what?
Joyeria.
Joyería.
Yeah.
Joyería. Uh-huh.
And he had a whole box full. And
Right.
Betty got a really great frog pin that I should have had you bring, but maybe you can go grab it if it's handy. I don't know if it's
Yes, it is.
accessible.
I'll go in a
Yeah,
minute.
she got probably the best
There you
piece
go.
of jewelry, but that one is
I'll go get
19. Okay. Yeah, yeah, I want you to see it because it's actually a really neat piece that she got. So yeah, this one that she was holding up is prong set. All of the pieces of jewelry that we're going to show you cost approximately $12 for all of them because it is, the Mercado is a flea market. It's just, you know, whatever people have. Let me try again, Susan, so that you can see it a little better. I'll get it in where you, there we go. Now you can see. And this one has nice Aurora stone, so it's from about 1960, and it's prong set. It's not anything I can identify as a certain maker, but it was nice enough that really that doesn't matter. You can just, it's wearable, it's big enough size.
It's a good color that combines well.
I like the color, yeah. I thought the color would look good with a lot of different people's outfits and skin tone. Okay, she's going to show you the frog. Frog is awesome. Look at that guy. And he is malachite, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's just great. Let me move this out there so you can... Yeah, I just thought this guy was really neat. And I spotted it, and it was newer than I usually sell. And she looked at it and was like, oh, I have a pair of earrings. And so, yeah, they look great together. Here, I'll just let you...
Oh, wonderful. Here we go.
Yeah. We're getting into the season, so Christmas tree pins, and I know that's actually a long stretch. Let me see if I can. Well, yeah, I guess that's a little better. Okay.
I have to go near you.
Yes, oh
There
please.
we go.
There we go.
There we are.
And if I put my hand behind, it'll focus in a
look
little
better.
better. There you go. I think you can see. Yeah, there it goes. Yeah, so Christmas tree pin, that's probably 1970s. This one I was hoping was Trifari. It doesn't have a mark. It certainly looks like Trifari from this era, but it is a nice bow knot or ribbon. I wish that would focus a little better for us. Let me try.
Go ahead.
Maybe I can hold it up. There we go. Now, whoop, I had it for a minute. Oh, it's my face. It's trying to focus on my face. There we go. Ah, thank you. Now we got it. So bow knot, that's from about 1970, and again, it's a nice size. And then the guy who was there, I put this on my wrist because my wrists are really skinny, and if it fits me, it'll fit a lot of my customers, and it was small. And he, right there in front of us, actually put links in it and fixed it and made it the right size. I couldn't believe it that he did all that extra work for, you know, getting like a $3 or $4 sale. I thought that was really nice of him. And so, yeah, it's big and chunky and gold, and these stones are cool. It's just these are metal. The pink stones are plastic, but they kind of look like quartz.
They do.
Yeah.
They do look exactly like that. There we go.
And I thought, yeah, this is a good look for
It's
the
a
price.
lovely pink.
Yeah, yeah.
It is lovely.
And I like pink.
Yeah.
This one I wore when I was on Nurse Flipper to cover up my Quicksilver logo, just for fun. And you can't really see because my ring light is sort of disturbing the color. Maybe you'll see it better on here. It's really this very fun, bright orange. And this is a 70s flower power.
Absolutely, 70s.
Yeah.
Really lovely.
I love 70s jewelry. And then this one I'd like you to hold up because
Oh, no.
it lays really well and it looked good on you.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll see. I don't know. Let's show. Okay, there it is. Oh, here we go. Look at that.
Yeah.
Stunning, I think.
I thought so too. When you picked, I looked at it and it's like, I'm not sure. And then you held it up to yourself and I was like,
Yeah.
oh yeah.
I don't think I can.
Well, here,
Show
we
people.
can open it up. Oh, you got it. Yeah. Oh, that's,
Very.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was really
It's
cool.
lovely.
So she convinced me to buy that one and I'm glad because that was fun. So, and then a couple other things we got. when
Lovely
we,
things.
when we went to the furniture store. Yeah,
I was shocked. I mean, wow. Wow, that's all I could say.
yeah, this was neat at the furniture store. And here this was, I think this was about $15 equivalent.
Right,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, but worth it because these are
Worth
selling
it,
for
yes.
crazy prices now.
Crazy.
Yeah, so I mean, even a
So
small one like
beautiful.
this, and it's that great hot orange, and it looks good against your yellow
Like
wall.
an amber kind of.
Orange and
Absolutely lovely. Yeah. I want one.
amber. What color do you want?
I want peacock colors.
Oh, that's right. You told me that.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll be on the lookout.
This is lovely.
This was just fun because it was in the same place. And it's a little Demitasse cup and saucer. And I like cup and saucers, and this one just had a really fun modernist look, I thought. It looks like something that maybe could even be made today, but when you turn over the bottom, it's actually got a German mark, and it's from like the early 60s, I think. And that just made me think that somebody now is going to like this.
Oh, correct.
Yeah.
They're so in vogue with the baby showers and all of this.
Yeah.
Very much in vogue.
That's what I'm noticing. They're having tea parties for bridal showers
Yeah.
and things too, and then everybody gets a different one, and then they get to take one home.
Yeah. I actually have some.
Really?
Yeah, from an event I went, I think about a year ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fun. It was fun.
It's a cool new idea, I think. And two more things. This one, nice and heavy.
Of course. I think I know why you got this.
Yes, I think you know why I got it too.
It says George right there.
Exactly.
Right. So how could he leave it?
That's right. Yeah, that's true. That was part of it. I think also part of it was that,
very heavy.
Very heavy. It's bronze, and it's clearly from Vancouver, Canada.
Handsome dude.
Yeah, he was pretty good looking for the 1700. The funny thing is, I've seen portraits of him, and he didn't really look that good.
Oh, looks good here. That's the back.
Yeah, so it was obviously mounted on something, and I don't know what. I'm not sure what this was used for, but it was mounted on something. It wasn't just like a medallion in a box, and so I'm thinking that maybe they had stanchions on a fence somewhere, like maybe on a pier in Vancouver or something, like they do in Seattle, where they had these attached. And I think this one was $8 or $9, and it just was one of those things. I thought, this doesn't make sense being in Mexico. And how many people who come here are going to say, oh, George Vancouver, why, yes, I need that because I'm Canadian. And I thought, I'll take it to the Northwest and then it will find its forever home with somebody who knows what this is. I've only seen one online. They had, it was out of an estate sale, and they were asking $65, which I think is honestly crazy. I don't think it will sell for that. If it sold for half of that, I would think that was nice. Oh, I just saw the edge. I didn't even see that before.
Yeah. Very shiny.
Yeah, so there you go.
I showed everybody there.
There's the bronze.
Yeah, it's heavy.
And then this last one was just a hunch.
Oh, so cute.
You figure, well, everyone likes dogs, and bulldogs are popular right now. And I'm
I think you've seen that people love dogs here in Playas. Oh my God.
They do. Yeah, they really do. And I mean, it's not like, oh, dogs just running around. No, they're on leashes. There are, at the Mercado, there were like 3 booths that were nothing but dog clothes and accessories. And they
that's true.
They have a Petco here.
Oh, yes, Petco.
Yeah.
A lot of vets.
A lot of veterinarians, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, no, they're definitely into the pets here.
Yeah.
And I mean, you know,
Big.
you can walk down the beach with your dog and show off, right?
Absolutely.
So let me see here. I'm missing out on comments because I keep forgetting to look. Yeah, George looks like Custer too. That's funny. I've actually been told that before. Custer was a little better looking than I was, but Custer was also a really he was kind of a mess. Um, the So anyway, this is a bulldog, but here's what's interesting about it is on the bottom. If you don't mind, I'll show this just because. So I picked it up and I thought, well, it's a handsome looking dog and it's a bulldog. And then I picked up the bottom and it says Mack Trucks Limited Edition. And I thought, oh, okay. I've sold lots of the chrome Mack Truck Bulldogs as hood ornaments and things. So then I saw this Keith Smikall Associates. And I remembered that I had a figurine like 10 or 15 years ago, and it was for a pharmacy company, and it was a nurse. And I remember it sold for $45, and I thought, wow, so this is an edition piece, and this was by this company probably late 60s, early 70s. I'm sure it was made in Japan. It probably had a Japan label that they took off or fell off over the years. And I thought, yeah, I'll bet that is something. And I think this was $10, if I remember, equivalent. And yes, it looks like UGA, the Bulldogs. And yes, we have Lena Ray, who's in our chat a lot, is a big fan of them. So who knows, she might like it. But then I looked it up on eBay, and I was floored because it turns out that the Little Mac Bulldog is selling, two of them have sold for $85 each. So yeah, so I was pretty happy about that, and you know, so it's funny, you know, it's not. I noticed this when Zeno and I met you the first time, and we'd been shopping in Guaymas. It wasn't that there weren't a lot of dealer, you know, like there was one guy who had, and I probably should have bought it now. He had the big Panther lamp, and it was brown instead of black.
Oh, I think it'll be there next Monday.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
I think I'll go back and make him an offer. He wanted the equivalent of $50, and it turns out that color is kind of hard to find, and I'd never seen one. And usually my brain says like the bulldog if I've never seen it, but I chickened out because that seemed like a lot of money, and now I think
It is.
it is.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah. I mean, that much money at the Sobre Ruedas is not conventional purchase.
right, it's
No.
not what everybody is going there for.
No.
And that's the other thing I'm realizing is that there's only a few people selling old things at these markets here because there's only a few people who are buying these old things.
Mm-hmm.
So,
There are furnitures. You saw all kinds of furnitures. I mean, new furniture, new mattresses,
new appliances.
Yeah,
I couldn't
but
believe people
also
rolled up and
secondhand,
unloaded.
thrifted. There was a wonderful chair that was
Oh,
painted
yeah.
that you took. I think you took a little video of that. And
Yeah, we'll have videos. You're getting the preview.
yes, but yes, not everybody is going with that amount of money.
Or for those sorts of things.
Oh, for those
yeah.
sorts of items, yeah. No.
So it's turned out to be, you know, I came here to see my friend and have fun and relax, but it's turned out to be a nice little shopping trip so far too.
Oh yeah,
so,
yeah. We're
thank you,
combining everything.
yes.
Yes. Combining everything here.
So, is there anything else we should tell them about Mexico or antiques or being here? What have I left out?
Well, I saw a video, I think it was on YouTube, and this was Anthony Bourdain who was being interviewed. I think he was in San Diego for a Comic-Con thing. And at the end, the gentleman who was interviewing said, "Okay, Anthony, so if we want to have really good food, where do you recommend we go and eat?" And Mr. Bourdain said, "Oh, cross the border, go to Tijuana. There are many, many, many restaurants. They will all be delicious." And yes, that's the one thing I would recommend and tell you.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
actually makes a lot of sense because what again I like I mentioned, it's grown so much. When I was a kid, there were maybe well, San Diego was a lot smaller then too. When I was a kid, there were maybe 500,000 people in San Diego and 250,000 in Tijuana, and now there's 3 million in San Diego and 2 million in Tijuana.
Hmm.
And because of that, people have moved here from all over.
All over. It used to be well, it's always been a migrant city, right? And for that, it's a very nostalgic city because, I remember going to a conference with Cesar Milan, which you know as the dog whisperer.
Oh
And I
yeah.
remember that as soon as he came out and greeted us, the audience, he said, Tijuanenses, this is where I crossed the border right here in Tijuana because he's from the state of Sinaloa. Yeah, so it's a very nice nostalgic city. When people come back, they say, "Oh, this or that," or "I used to work this," or "My dad worked there, my mom did this, my mom bought there." Or just so many things that are going on. And for a long time, you understood that people were from other states, the state of Jalisco, the state of Sinaloa, the state of Sonora, and so on and so forth. But then, right now, it's more international. We For a long time we've had a Russian connection and a Russian community near El Valle de Guadalupe. So right now, because of the conflict, Ukraine, Russia, a lot of Russians have had to come here and
Oh.
wait in order for them to, seek an asylum, or even Ukrainians.
Oh,
Yeah,
interesting.
even Ukrainians. Yes, in the last 3 years, I would say 2 years, 3 years. We have a Haiti community, Haitian community. We have people from Peru. We have people from Argentina. God, you name it, they're probably here.
And with
Yeah.
that is this fusion not just of cultures but of food. And I know I watch Pati, the Mexican Table. She's on
Mm-hmm.
PBS, and she came here and talked about how Tijuana food is now this fusion of different things from all over the world and
Mm-hmm.
especially all over Mexico. And so you have this, it feels just in general, the city feels like it's burgeoning, it's exciting, it's new, it's becoming this cultural fusion of all sorts of things. And it's just, it's really fascinating to see. It's so, like I say, it's so different than when I came here. The first time I came here, I was 6 years old,
Mm-hmm.
and it was definitely a very different place than it is now. So it's really cool to be catching up and learning about it again, and I'm
Yeah.
just really enjoying it.
Yes, and there's so much more we're gonna do.
Yeah.
I remember when I was working in corporate, there was a new coworker, and he was from Peru, and somebody decided to take him to eat ceviche. Now,
Hmm.
ceviche is a wonderful fish cuisine, and we do have it here a lot because the
You're right on the
proximity to
coast.
yes, the proximity to water. But here Mexicans, we eat it in what we call a tostada, which is a fried tortilla. And someone took him. He probably, I don't think he had been here a week, the poor guy. So they went, they took him to eat ceviche tostadas, and then all of a sudden, another friend turns around and he notices that he ate the fish, but he left the tostada there. And he turned around, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "What?" He was like, "What? I'm eating the ceviche." And he said, "No, you eat it with the tostada." Because apparently in Peru you just eat it like if it was
Oh, like off a
a
plate.
salad or
So to him, that
something.
was a
Yeah,
plate.
plate, exactly. That's funny. Yeah, but people from everywhere, and it's a very welcoming city also because of that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, no one. It's a rarity if you met someone who's I mean, parents were born here or grandparents were born here. Yeah, third generation is a rarity. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah, that's it's interesting because a lot of the West Coast is like that. I remember Seattle for at various times of its history has been like that too, and it just makes it really really interesting and a lot of fun. So, um, thank you so much for having me here.
Oh,
It's just
great.
it's just so exciting.
Wonderful.
And
Great to have you.
oh, well, thank you. And I guess with that, we'll sign off because we've been on for about an hour and 45 minutes. But I just am so pleased to get to talk to all of you again. And we'll do this again in December. We'll have our last one of these for the year. And please, any topics or suggestions you have, send me an email or, well, that's usually the best way, the antiquenomad@gmail.com. Because I'm always interested in what you're interested in, and because then it makes me learn more. Like I know a whole lot more about bottles than I did a week ago, for example. So, oh, you eat the ceviche in a tall chilled glass. Yeah, I've had it served that way too. Actually, more
Well,
like a shrimp
that,
cocktail.
yes, shrimp cocktail. That's right.
Hmm.
Delicious as well.
Yes.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Oh, well, this was so much fun. Thank you for joining me on
Oh,
here, and
wonderful.
thank all of you for joining me
Hi to
too.
everyone that I usually see on the Monday and Tuesday and
In the chats.
Wednesdays.
Yes,
Yes.
exactly. So, well, thanks so much, and we will say goodnight for now and see all of you again soon.